Good afternoon. I'm Adam Cummings with Vetting America. We're here down at the Attic Cafe in the beautiful downtown Tampa. I would like to thank our sponsors, Richard McIntyre of McIntyreFirm.com, as well as Anthony Kovic of the Tampa Post for producing this event today. Today, on our fourth episode of Vetting America, we have former Army Jeffrey Lodick here. Thank you so much for being here. I appreciate you.
Thanks, brother.
So Jeffrey, I mean, you're retired Army as a master sergeant. You've held some crazy positions. So let's talk a little bit about your Army career and kind of how that bred the man you are today.
Well, I owe everything to the Army career. I mean, like I tell anybody, I gave the Army time, right? Mm-hmm. They gave me everything else. I mean, I wasn't the best kid, when I joined the Army, so I learned a lot of things, had some great leadership and mentors along the way. I spent 20 years. I got out at 20 years and 12 days. I always said, just like someone meeting that halfway mark where they're like, if I spend a day over 10, I'm going to do 20.
Yes.
Well, I was in the same mindset. If I do a day over 20, I'm going to do 30. I love the Army and everything I did in it. And to be honest with you, when I made that decision to retire, it was based on the opportunity to influence more people. I could only influence a certain amount of people while I was in the military. Leaving, I could influence so many more. So I spent time, my last position was a squadron sergeant major, a battalion sergeant major.
Okay.
I was an operations sergeant major before that for about 3 years. I was a first sergeant before that. All that is wonderful, right? My favorite thing and what actually caused me to be who I am today more than anything was I was a drill sergeant for 3 years.
Yes.
And that's actually where I found tangible results. I found that I could do things with people and influence them and inspire them to be probably more than they ever thought they could be. In the same manner that when I was a private, going through basic training, my drill sergeants were able to inspire me to be so much more than I ever imagined I could be. So, to be honest with you, my time, I mean, if I could have been a drill sergeant for the rest of my career, I would have. I tried to go back a bunch of times, and I wanted to do it the right way. So, originally, I wasn't a very good drill sergeant. I was kind of horrible. The good thing about me is I had great drill sergeants with me, so they taught me a lot, and I learned a lot from them. And as my time kind of ran out, I started to get a little bit better. And then it was time to be done. So I've always wanted to go back to do that. But inspiring young men and women, best opportunity I ever had, and that's what drove me to be where I am today.
So where are you today? You have a company. You're a professional public speaker. You mentor children. Mm-hmm. Let's talk a little bit about what you got going on since you've got out about a year ago now.
Yeah, it's been about a year. Yeah.
Congratulations on that.
It's crazy how fast time goes, right?
It does.
So I always knew I wanted to talk, right? I talk an awful lot. Anybody that tells you if there's a skill that I possess, it is speaking, right? Whether I'm good at it or not, it remains to be seen.
It's all perspective.
It is, right? So when I got out, I knew I wanted to be an entrepreneur. I mean, and it wasn't so much because I didn't want to work for anybody. I mean, at the end of the day, if you're an entrepreneur, you're working for somebody anyway. I mean, yes, you don't have a boss, but the customer base is who drives what you do, right? In a sense, right? So when I got out, I wanted to speak. Like I said, my decision to retire was solely based on the fact that I wanted to influence. Okay. So when I opened my business, Change Your Forecast LLC, a lot of people say, "Are you a travel agent? Are you?"
How do you? Do you have a website for that?
I don't. I would see as you have made me very, not proud, but excited, is that you're not waiting, right? You're doing things. You're just moving. You're executing. Well, one of my drawbacks was I was executing and I didn't want to get the website out so fast because I wasn't sure what I want to do. So I'm still in the process. It'll be out shortly, and I say shortly, within the next 30 to 60 days. Okay. It's been a year in process, so it better be.
It's on camera now, so you gotta hold yourself to it.
Stuck, right? Yeah. So Change Your Forecast was, and I'm not really trying to put my little spot in here, but the idea of a forecast. I'm a very big weather person. I like weather, and forecast is a prediction of things to come, right?
Yes.
Well, a lot of people, and the people I strive to reach out and influence, are the people that are predetermined, if you will, to be in a situation to where they can't escape, and that's what their thought process is. So I wanted to give them the idea and put it in their mind that they can change their forecast, that they're the only people that will keep them where they're at. Okay. So I wanted to empower them to do for themselves as opposed to waiting for someone to do it for them. So that's where the name came from. But yeah, so I've been out there doing some things, speaking to folks. I work with different athletic directors and different college organizations or schools, universities, trying to get into the sporting world, right? But which is difficult. It's not an easy nut to crack.
Not, but once you're there, though, it's a loyal nut to crack.
Oh, so. Yeah. It's interesting. It's fun.
So you're going around, you're mentoring kids. Mm-hmm. You also are an associate instructor at 4Block. Let's talk a little bit about what 4Block is and how it's helping veterans transition.
Man, 4Black is a godsend, if you will. So I started a podcast a while back, and we can get into that if you want to in a little bit. But based on that, I had met a couple other podcasters, right? And I've been working with veterans and advocating for them in a lot of different ways. But I met a guy that was talking about 4Black. 4Black wasn't actually offered here in Tampa. It's a student veteran transitioning process or organization that helps people get into the corporate world, right? So a gentleman, Pete Bloom, he actually teaches courses at LinkedIn courses at McGill. He and I were having a conversation. He said the Southeast director, Roger Rowley, up in Atlanta is trying to move down. They're trying to move into the Tampa area. So he said, would you be interested? I said, of course. Gave Roger a call. Great man, former retired Command Sergeant Major. Awesome man, very inspiring. And he gave me the rundown of 4Black. And I was... Yes. I mean, it was easy for me to say yes. We're helping veteran students transition, right? Or student veterans transition and help them out. So they brought it down to Tampa, and we started a couple of weeks ago. And I'm amazed by it. I mean, it's growing. It's actually looking at reaching out to Orlando, and they're starting a program, I think, in August in Orlando. So it's growing. But at the end of the day, it's about helping the veteran.
Yes.
The service member, doesn't matter branch, but the service member transition from the military, and any program designed for that is I'm all on board with.
Oh, 100%. Yep. So for any veteran out here watching this today, how can they look into 4Black? How can they become a part of it?
4black.org. Go to 4black.org, and you can get all the information that you need. It's a great organization.
Absolutely, absolutely. Let's talk a little bit about just you have one of the brightest and just you command presence. Everywhere you go, you have no choice. And I know you wield that now, and you've wielded that, learned that in the Army, how much influence you command. How do you use that as a weapon for good instead of a weapon for manipulation? And because there's people out there that have command presence that take advantage of people. But then there's people who have command presence like you who just want to help people. What was your decision to want to help people, and how do you use your natural ability to command a room to truly get in front of people and change their lives?
So it'll go back to being a drill sergeant, understanding that I could influence people,
yes.
right? I could do things good, or I could do things bad. You could tell a young soldier to run through a wall, and he would do it, or she would do it, because that's what they do, right?
Yes.
And I knew then, don't do that. Right? so as that time passed, and I just got a little bit more senior and understood a little bit more about people, because really it came down to me learning. I was one of those guys that said, if I speak, you listen. That's the way it should be, right? Until I identified that there's different styles of learning, and then I could actually reach more people if I was a little bit more intelligent and got onto their level to help them learn, right? So as I transitioned and got around other folks and started learning the other side
yes.
of the game, the civilian side, I'll tell you, it was a very easy decision, and it was the same way in which I saw in you is why I say I know it's in me. Authentic, being authentic, yes. and so therefore, if you authentically want bad stuff, you can't yes. hide it. I mean, you can pretend, and you can manipulate, and you can be a used car salesman, if you will. And I don't like the terminology because I was a car salesman. So
snake oil salesman.
I tried it. You know, it was a great experience. But if you have a passion for something, if you love what you do, it shines through, and you can't hide it.
Yes.
So being authentic is one of those things, and to be honest with you, it's just within me. It's not something in which I have to think about. I don't make it up. I want truly to do what's best for the individual. I'm in a good position in my life, right? I'm fine, and I'm going to be better.
Yes.
But I want to bring people along with me, and I want to give them the same advice I got. Understanding variables are different, and people are from different places and do different things. I still want to provide them with some light. You know, yes. Sometimes, the clouds may come, but there's a rainbow after the storm all the time. You know what I mean?
I truly believe in being the change you want to see in the world. I made a conscious decision. My whole life I was always kind. I'm a kind-hearted person. It's who it is. I always say that the difference between me and a psychopath is that my mom just hugged me too much growing up. But the thing that I really come down to is I just love watching people's eyes light up when they have an epiphany or a revelation, or when they truly feel like they're being heard, and that they can actually speak from their heart for the first time in their life. And a lot of veterans have a lot of passion. We wouldn't have joined the military if we didn't have that passion. I truly believe that in the beginning, we may have joined for college, we may have joined for an adventure, we may have joined for some other reason, but at the end of the day, that service to country, that service to the man and woman to the left and the right of you, that always team mentality, it becomes a part of your DNA.
Yeah.
And as I got out and I pushed everything away and everyone away and isolated myself, I was so lost and alone. And I just don't want anyone to ever feel that way. I never want to have anyone feel that darkness.
Yeah.
And we talk about the transition process. You hit the ground running, and everybody's transition process is different. And what I've noticed is that the veterans who served 20 plus years in the military tend to get out hard charging. And it seems like the veterans who only served 4 or 5 years, where they're kind of on the cusp between who they were and who they've become, have a little bit of trouble transitioning. So it's not easy. And like, what do you think of the current process that the DOT has in place for veterans of all tenures in the military that you think is good, bad, or indifferent?
The process is good intended. There's a good intent behind it, and I'm very proud of the growth, right? Because I mean, I've spoke to folks that, you know, ETS or retired or got out back in 1985 and in 2000. You know, the process has changed. They try to do the best with what they have, and that's all well and good. What people forget is that until the day you're out, you're still under contract, right? And Uncle Sam is paying you, and that's a thing, right? So the transition process, as it may be, we look at it at the end.
Yes.
There's got to be a lot in the beginning.
Okay.
At any step, right? You know, if you join the military, you're going to exit the military. It's inevitable. You're not going to stay forever, right? So there are things that need to be taught to you early, and those early things are financial literacy. Those things are taking care of you as a human being, as a grown adult. A lot of you, and I've listened to you when you guys talked a while back when I met with you guys, you have 18-year-old kids that come in, they were kids. They stayed in for 4 years with a meal card, with a barracks, with told where to be, when to be, and all that good stuff, and then they get out. They never really grew up, unless they were married maybe. You know, they had a little bit of responsibility, but for the most part, they didn't understand, and they weren't taught. So I look at a lot of things from a early perspective. Okay. Teach them financial literacy. Teach them responsibility, other than just making sure their uniforms are straight, their beds are made, which is still important, don't get me wrong.
All important, yes.
But there's a lot of other things to go along with that, mostly including education, right? Yep. So we could teach financial literacy and make sure that sticks early.
Yes.
And then not just tell them about tuition assistance and the ability to be educated, but actually enforce the education standards. I mean, the Air Force does a very good job. They make them go. They have the Air Force Community College.
Civilians.
Yeah, they do, and they're doing a good.
They are doing a very good job.
Yeah, the Community College of the Air Force, it's pretty much a mandatory thing, so they can get their associate's degree, which leads on to a bachelor's, right? What in the Army that doesn't exist, and
not in the Marine Corps,
and not in the Marine Corps either, right? So those things would be great, and only because if you were to look at the numbers, and I'm going to throw out some numbers minus. I mean, the statistics will be skewed a little bit, but some basic numbers. There's 1.2 million service members, right? Yes. Army, Air Force, Navy, Marines. About 300,000 to 400,000 are officers. In 2018, 100% of officers have bachelor's degrees because it's mandated before they get commissioned to have a bachelor's degree. So if you look at the 300,000+ officers, they're commissioned officers with a bachelor's degree at a minimum. Now, a lot have master's degrees and further education. Now, look at the rest of the 850,000 that exist with the enlisted part. I'll throw the percent at 10. It's less than 10, but I'll say 10% have bachelor's degrees, right? Yes. So if you were to take the number, and I only did 10% for the easier math, right? That's 85
averages.
Exactly, 85,000 have degrees. Now, if there is a problem, it's right there. And you look at that. You look at jobs. When people get out now, I'm an IT guy by trade, not an IT guy by knowledge. They have certifications, and they go in to get good jobs, and they might have a top-secret clearance, so they kind of exit the military in a good way. Even the young guys, right? And they might get jobs at $50,000, $60,000, $75,000. It's good. Well, you guys that aren't in the IT world, that have different certifications or none, logisticians, fuelers, whatever it may be, the gamut, run it, 11 Bravos or the infantry guys.
Counters.
Yeah. If they don't have that degree, well, what is on most job requirements? Job requirements, bachelor's degree required. Now, there's a whole bunch of preferred stuff, which is good to have if you have it. But if you don't have the basic requirement, you are not going to get hired, right?
Absolutely.
So
going to get looked at.
You're right, and that's where a lot of our stuff stems from, right?
So do you truly believe in that education is key to everything, and even structured education, even higher education is just as important? I
think it plays a significant role. I mean, you look at a lot of entrepreneurs that are out there making millions and millions of dollars that are dropped out of high school, but you talk about law of averages. What's the average of that?
1%.
Yeah. So you look at, yes, it is a key. And does it mean that you have to do that mundane job for the rest of your life? No, but you get in there to take care of yourself financially while you're doing something to take care of yourself personally, right?
So what I've I did a bunch of research on veteran statistics myself, and one of the biggest statistics that stood out to me is that only about 10% of veterans actually use their GI Bill. And I saw that statistic, and then I stopped, and I said, "What? How is that? How is that possible?" I think it's down to two things. A lot of people don't want to go to college, which is fine, and a lot of people don't want to deal with the paperwork. And but what I really believe is like the key point to that, and the key reason behind it, is because people or veterans, they don't know about it, they don't know how to use it, or it's not that versatile. And we're getting higher education will always be there. I got an education from the University of Tampa, and it's one of the best decisions I ever made in my life. Yeah. But that didn't prepare me for what you were talking about, what corporate America and what the real world was all about. I had to get out there, school hard knocks, and just do it. Yep. But the thing with education and now is that certifications are becoming huge. Huge. And we have people throwing on LinkedIn classes all the time, which could generate $100,000 a year easy doing LinkedIn sales. Without a doubt. There's so many people out there with such core knowledge and specific specialized things that just aren't given to you in a higher education format, that if we were able to somehow lobby for policy change on the GI Bill, we would be able to actually use it for literally any certification we want. Right. Say you want to go get your physical fitness license from LA Fitness, which is $750 over a weekend. Yep. You should be able to use your GI Bill for that. You shouldn't have to go to an institution, or tech school, or a trade school, or go to a special program. Whatever it is you want, that you want to educate yourself on and become better for, you should be able to use that GI Bill. You earn that money. That is your money to go towards anything. Without a doubt. And that's something that we really need to address, I feel, in this country, is how versatile is the GI Bill and how easy it is to implement. Right. So, I mean, there's a lot of growth, and I would say that from before to now, as far as the uses of the GI Bill, and some are approved and some are disapproved. And there's flight school that you can use with it, but you have to go to the tier 1 or the level 1, which is $10K. You have to pay $10K out of pocket. Yes. Then you can use your GI Bill for the second phase, which okay, I don't have $10K, right, because I wasn't financially literate, right, because they didn't teach me that. Oh, I know. Anyhow, I say that, but so it's come a long way. But you're right. There are a lot of things that we can do to change it and help it out. So without a doubt. Given how much research you've done, how much you're in the transition process with people, being a transition veteran yourself, I truly believe, I don't know if this is right or wrong, but for me, I'm at 4 years of my transition. May 14th was when so May 25th was when my contract ended. I'm just starting to get my feet underneath me after 4 years, and I went to school and I did all the right things, and it's still just getting used to the society. My mom always says that, you put 5 years in, it's going to take at least 5 years to come back to who you were, just a better version of yourself. Probably not going to take you 20 years to do that. But do you feel that the longer you're in, the harder it is to maybe not so much adapt to society, but to feel finally comfortable in it? That's a double-sided coin, I guess. I mean, because again, variables exist. Me personally, I didn't live within the walls of the military. And what I mean by that is, obviously, I got off base. I was around the civilian population. I did a lot of stuff volunteering anyway, so I was always around folks. I mean, Tampa Bay business owners, Chris Krimitsos. I mean, I was still in the military when I met him, and I still was around them to learn some things and have those conversations that weren't so military-oriented, right? Absolutely. So for me personally, will I need to take the 20 years to adjust to the civilian world? No. But what I will tell you is transition is a non-stop process, right? It doesn't just end when you take the uniform off and when you get your first job. There is a culture that exists within the military, and whether you're part of that culture for 5 minutes or 20 years or 30 years, it's something in which isn't similar to the outside world, and it's the cultural change. And I don't know if it's about acclimating back into the civilian world or not. I think it's letting go of something that was so to a lot of folks that was so part of them, right? Yes. And that's hard. So it just has to be a continued process, and I don't think there shouldn't be a timeline associated with it, and it shouldn't be you're doing a really good job in your transition process or you're not. It should be hey, what can I do to help you to the next step of your transition process? Yes. And that's the way I believe it should be, because I don't think it ever ends. You, again, being a person who commands presence, you are also, I could tell, you take a lot of pride in yourself. You take a lot of pride in what you do, you take pride in who you help, and that is a common characteristic for veterans, is the pride, which pride and ego, very closely related. They're different, but they're closely related. How does in your opinion, because this is something I've been dealing with, especially this year in 2018, is letting go of my ego.
Yeah.
You know, asking for help, admitting that I don't know anything, and just asking someone to just teach me. I'm a sponge. I just want to learn. How would you help a veteran who's having trouble with that pride, that ego that kind of holds him or her back, to let that go and truly just transcend into a place where they can learn and absorb and become better without fear? Because it's fear-based. Your ego is what protects you.
Right.
It's your walls. So how do you get that drawbridge to come down and help those veterans who have been blocked and emotionally repressed for so many years to just let that go and finally just exist and try to just be happy and better?
Yeah. So you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make him drink, right?
Yes, sir.
So I'll forget a moment about the transition process and out this way. Being in the Army, being in the military, and you talk to peers, senior ranking folks, even junior folks, you can give all the advice you want, and you can have the best advice ever, but there is that ego that says, I know, right? People want to know because people don't want to have to question. Leaders aren't questioned, right? You just make decisions and you go. So what I would do, what I did then, what I do now, is I'm here. You know, and I'm not just sitting here saying, I'm here. I'm saying here, I'm here. If you need me, swallow the pride. I'm not going to judge you, and that is the most significant thing, is no judgment needed. And those are organizations like 4 Block. I'm gonna before I get off, I'm gonna list a bunch of organizations that are in my mind that I know, coast to coast, north to south. They're here to help those transitioning folks. But truly, open your ears, open your eyes, and close your mouth. But before you close your mouth, ask for help. It's not weak. It's saying, listen, you could have been a general, you could have been a colonel, and there are networks that exist in there that are going to help you along the way. You could be a command sergeant major or a master chief. It doesn't matter. You could be a private. You don't know what you don't know. And if you open your mouth and say, teach me, someone will do so. And there are millions of people out here that are wanting to help.
Yes.
But guess what? We don't want to ask because there's some pride involved with that, and it's a little damaging, and it's unfortunate. But you know, the good thing about me, I'm proud, and I'm very, very, very much a proud individual, but never been so proud to say, hey, can you help me?
Yes.
I need to ask you a question, and I might have the dumbest question in the world, and I'm okay with that as long as I have a great answer. And that's what I'm looking for.
There are no stupid questions, just stupid answers.
Yeah, you're right.
You know, but at the end of the day, if you don't ask, you don't know.
You're right.
And everyone abuses the Wayne Gretzky quote, but it's the best. It's one of the best quotes that's ever been said. Is you miss 1,000% of 100% of the shots you don't take.
You're right.
And when I first heard that, I thought it was a little cheesy. I thought I was like, oh, everyone says that. And the more that it kind of comes into my head every day, I just, I'm just going to go for it. And that's kind of what this became, what this show's become, is I met Anthony at Podfest just 2 months ago, and he goes, let's work together. And I said, really? And he said, yes. And at that point, I said, you know what? Instead of just saying, yeah, I'll do that, and then never, not following up, which was one of my worst things in the world, was I just didn't follow up with people. I said, I'm going to hold myself accountable to this, and I'm going to do it. I told Chris that. I told James that, and that helped me kind of get out of my shell, out of this fear of failure. Well, the only way you really truly fail is if you never try.
You're right.
And I just this year's been truly about self-admittance and just getting past myself. Yeah. And I just want to see where I can go.
That's awesome.
And you have this podcast, right?
Yeah.
It's called On the Other Side.
Yeah.
And On the Other Side, leadership after transition.
Yeah.
All right. Let's talk about that.
Well, you mentioned James. So James Van Pruin, he and I worked together for a little while. We became pretty good friends, and he had made mention of podcasting, and he was going to start a veterans podcast network. And I said, that's cool. I don't know what a podcast is. I truly had no earthly idea what that was. He talked about RSS feeds, and I said, well, I guess the only thing I know of an RSS feed right now is that I need that in order to put my podcast out, right? I still don't know all that stuff. But he had asked me, if you were to be part of this network, what would it be that you would think about or talk about?
Yes.
And I said, I don't know. So I went home, and then I think it was a day later, maybe 12 hours, I'm not sure. I said leadership. I'd talk about leadership. So I was getting ready to embark on the transition, right? And I was having these people tell me during the TAPS class, the transition process classes and all this stuff. of their experiences. But those experiences were more like I was in the military in this uniform, and then I got a GS job or a contract job doing this job.
Yes.
So how do you give me transition knowledge from somebody who has never transitioned at all, really, besides taking off a uniform and then doing the same job? So I said, I want some real life experiences.
Yes.
I want to go get my mentors. And I had some mentors that were helping me along my career and then after to help me along my transition process. And I said, I'm going to go reach out to all the services, all the ranks, and just get some information.
Okay.
And so that's what happened. And we started, we made a date. We had talked in December about doing this. We put a date on the calendar, January 9th of 2017, and that's the date that we had a launch party at O'Brien's Irish Pub out in Brandon. It was great. We put our first episodes out, and we've been rocking since. I took a little bit of a break based on some life, based on the transition itself, but got some things up in the queue right now, about to re-energize it and get back to executing like you've done, which I'm excited about. That's why I'm really happy to be around you, because you are that energy. So it's good. So I'm going to get back out there and put out some episodes here soon. And I love it, man. I'm learning so much about life in general. It's great.
Leadership. That's one of my favorite topics to talk about. Specifically, just being in the military, it's amazing how many different leaders I had. In just the 5 years I was in, hundreds. And I'd say 80% of them weren't very good. Because honestly, the people around you make the leader. Yeah. And if you're not a good leader and you're constantly barraging your troops, your Marines, your soldiers, your people, your employees, I mean, they're going to drain their energy, and they're not going to produce the way you need them to produce. Right. You held some pretty awesome billets, and you had some major leadership roles. And I'm sure you have a leadership role now out. Let's talk a little bit about being that private and being those lower ranks, and what lessons you learned as you were coming up that helped you excel at those leadership positions that are prestigious, in my opinion. Yeah. Sergeant Major. Those billets are incredible billets where you have hundreds, if not thousands, of people underneath you. Let's talk about that a little bit, about coming up through the ranks and how not only seeing your good leaders and some qualities you got from them, but like watching a little bit about what happens with the bad leaders and what not to do.
Bad leaders are the best teachers. Yes. I mean, you are magnetized to the good leaders, so you end up, emulating them. I mean, it's funny because the people that are really good leaders, you get their mannerisms. You don't even realize it. Like they'll say something a certain way, or they'll use their hands a certain way, and you start doing it because you're magnetized. Yes. They are bringing you in without even telling you that they're bringing you in. You just see them, and you know what right looks like. Yes. The bad leaders are the ones you stay away with, or stay away from, but you watch them and you see, and you know they're bad based on the feelings around you.
Absolutely.
So if people are your biggest resource, right, understanding that a leader can't lead nothing, they have to lead people, right, because you manage things and you lead people. That's a huge difference, right, and that's one of the things that I speak about ad nauseum. I can't stand the word manager, but anyhow, so as a young kid, a young private, I was a dumb kid. I was a dumb soldier, and I got yelled at. And when I got yelled at, it was because I was wrong, and I accepted that because I was doing dumb things, and I would be yelled at, fixed, and then I'd do it right, and then I'd be left alone. But the bad leaders would just yell to yell, right? And they would just do things, and you'd look at them like, what is the lesson? What is the lesson? And as a leader, you want to create, everything should be creating a lesson, and more importantly, you should be giving your people the ability to take your place, which is to empower them to have some vision and some fields of fire to which they can exercise. Yes. People that micromanage aren't allowing their people to grow, which stops production of leaders, right? So it started young, and I could truly, in about 35 to 45 seconds, list, 150 leaders in which, from the time I was a private until the time I walked out of the military, that I still talk to today, that have truly influenced my life. And I'll tell you, I left those bad leaders off to the distance. I watched them, and I knew what I wasn't going to do. And it was very simple to me. People won't work for you if you suck. I mean, what I'm saying? That's just the way it is, right?
It's true.
They'll work for you because they have to work for you. Yeah, and because the military isn't a democracy, and a lot of folks don't realize that. There's a leader, and there's followers, right? So when they say do, it's a lawful order, and you have to accomplish it, right? So you do it. But when you're the private, and you're around those privates, right? When the leader speaks, everybody knows what we're saying, so we understand his or her level of leadership.
Yes.
I made it necessary for me to be around my soldiers. And I'm not going to tell you that I was the best leader. I probably learned more after getting out of the military than I did while I was in, because of one thing. I asked questions. This podcast alone has taught me so much because I'm asking, what is the best quality of a leader to you? You know, and in that, I've learned some amazing things in which I thought I was doing, but then I look back and say, man, I'm just going to tell you one specific thing that I've heard 3 times. Now, those 3 times I heard it, I asked, what's the best quality from a leader? He said, love your people. And I said, you know, from a sergeant major, from a first sergeant, from a senior NCO, love my people. And the colonel that I was talking to, Tom Bird, she said, love your people. He said, if you had a child, it was your child, when they messed up, would you get rid of them? Would you chapter them? Would you nurture them? Would you teach them? Would you grow with them? Would you let them be human? Yes. Because there's a human aspect to leadership, and people forget it because by doctrine, right, the Army's definition is leadership is the process of influencing soldiers to accomplish the mission by providing purpose, direction, motivation. That's from the book, right? But if everybody was to read that definition, then we'd all be robots, and that's what would be expected, but it's not. There's different ways to interpret it, different ways to do it.
Yes.
When you love your people, you're going to put your people above everything else.
Absolutely.
And you're going to care about them. You're not just going to say, I love them. You're going to show them. And when you show them, they reciprocate that. And then they trust you. And they love you. And they're going to do everything they can solely not to disappoint you, just like your son or daughter would do, or a sibling. So that was one of the most profound things I had ever heard 6 months after I retired. Because if I would have heard that at 10 years in the military, I think it might have changed my approach to leadership.
Yes.
And I might have been a little bit more compassionate. But I thought I was pretty compassionate, don't get me wrong. I wasn't a horrible leader. It wasn't probably a great leader, you know what I mean? So that's the way I feel about that.
So you're talking about qualities, qualities of leaderships, and you have this podcast that talks a lot about leadership. What are some of the qualities that you, being all these amazing billets you've held, these opportunities to be in front of people, to lead people, to mentor, what are the qualities that you've adopted for your own brand? Because everyone has a personal brand. I mean, it's amazing how much branding there is in life when it comes to everything. Your brand at work, your brand as a leader, your brand as a mentor, your personal brand and just at home. It's not so much masks because we're authentic people. It's just you have to curtail your personality for certain events. Yep. So specifically speaking about, let's say, mentoring young kids, what are some of the leadership qualities you try to show them and instill in them that they can then take? And do you have any evidence of that being rubbed off on those kids? And can you tell us some stories about that? Sure.
So the 2 qualities I use, and you just mentioned it, was being authentic, right?
Yes.
I believe in that. I think that's a significant thing. You can only fake it till you make it for so long. You know what I mean? So being authentic. The other part is being transparent. Yes. So transparency to me is probably one of those biggest things. I mean, I'll talk about communication, and communication is significant and very important, being able to talk. And communication is not a directive, meaning I'm not talking and you're listening, now it's communicating. You're acknowledging and we're having a conversation, right? It's a flow of
send and receive.
Yes, and that's huge. But being transparent, authentic, and having the ability to communicate are 3 of the biggest things that I believe that exist. Because if I'm telling you where I want to be, right, that allows you to see it, right? Which allows me to empower you to achieve it. See, the thing is, if I'm a micromanager and I don't give you the end state, and I just tell you step by step by step, it's going to take us longer, and it's going to be my vision, and you're going to do it the way I want it to be done. When I allow you to see where I want it to be, I get to have you be innovative. Because look, I'm bright, but I'm not intelligent. There's a difference, right? I'm a visionary. I'm not an artistic person, but I have good vision, right? I see stuff. But I know beyond a shadow of a doubt that if I give my vision to a group of young men or women, especially that served in the military, and I know this for a fact, if I give them my vision and allow them to achieve it, my vision is going to be more beautiful than this mural. Yes. They're going to do it in such a way that I could never have thought of. It's going to meet my intent and surpass it greatly. And I know that, but I know that because I've empowered my soldiers and my Marines, my airmen. I was in joint organizations, so I've given them the ability to show me that they have that potential. And more importantly, as I teach them that, well, when they're sitting here, they're going to hopefully in turn do the same, because it's how you continue to grow, and you don't stay in a funnel and not move out. Because innovation, well, what does Gary Vee say? Innovate or die? Well, innovation doesn't stick by having your blindfolds on. You have to be out there doing some things and letting other people voice what it is that they want to see. And
like you said, empowerment. It's so much different, like you said, when you have somebody micromanaging you, someone just down your throat all the time. But then you have, every once in a while, you get a leader that's just like, this is what I want done, make it yours. Yeah. And people just go, what? I mean,
did you say make it yours? Did you say ownership?
Yes.
Well, that's huge. Letting someone own something puts their name on it and makes them, because you had mentioned pride, right?
Yes.
Most people have it, especially if you're in the military, because if you don't, you kind of get walked over because people that are proud. That's a alpha male, alpha female type environment, and you have that pride. So when you give someone ownership, well, they want to make this thing theirs.
Yes.
Because when it's yours, it's all right. But when it's theirs, they want to shine it up. They want to make it look pretty. So you give them ownership.
At the same time, they respect you, and they want to make you look good with it.
Yeah, of course.
One of the best pieces of advice I got it from a leader. His name was Christian Fuentes, Sergeant Fuentes. I think he's a gunny now, I think. He never yelled. It was amazing. He was a mind ninja, as I called him, because he would literally make me feel bad about doing something wrong, and then I would fix myself. Right. You know, like he talked to me stern, I think, one time, and it was like, Cummings, don't do that. You know, I sergeant, because I respected him so much as a person, but also as a Marine sergeant, but as a man. What he told me was, it's my job. It's your job to make me look good. Because in the end, you're all trying to help each other get to the next level. It's your job to make me look good. It's my job to give you every tool and resource and empowerment you need to make me look good. Right. You know, because if you make me look good, you're going to make yourself look good. Right. And if we have that synergism and that collectiveness, everything gets accomplished. So we live in an age of just, I feel like our brains are starting to expand. I feel like our mindsets are expanding, and there's so much access to knowledge and information. What would be some books? Because I just started getting into audiobooks. I haven't been reading enough, in my opinion, just with life. And by the end of 9 o'clock at night, the last thing I want to do is keep reading, because I've been reading all day, emails, writing, whatever it is. Yeah. So I started listening to audiobooks, and I'm not an auditory learner, and that's why I always kind of shied away from them. Yeah. But it amazed me that I actually do receive a lot of it, even if subconsciously. Yeah. And it almost brings the work of the author to life. What are some books that you've read or been reading that's really influenced your life and has helped push your trajectory up to the next levels?
So I would love to list millions of books, but I'll tell you, I won't.
Let's do top 3.
Yeah, so all Dave Ramsey books. And I'll tell you, I talked to you about financial literacy a little bit ago, and I know where I was. But the problem is, I know that a lot of people are in that same boat. A lot of enlisted folks come in because they don't have any other choice. I mean, you listen to a guy in California, the teacher who said he wasn't so far off the truth, even though he was just way off base by talking like that. And then the things he said were just absolutely ridiculous, the manner in which he said it. But people that join the military aren't those scum of the earth and all the other crap he said. But a lot of them aren't trying to go to college. They didn't join the military to go to school, and that's a fact, right? They just like you had made mention earlier. So as they're in there not learning, that's what I did. I didn't want to go. My biggest thing, I didn't start going to school until I was already in 12 years, right? And a lot of the senior folks are starting to go to school, especially enlisted folks, towards the end. But you start talking about financial literacy, they don't learn. So what did I do? I want to learn that. So I started listening to Dave Ramsey. I mean, you can do the Money Makeover, to, what is it called? Total Money Makeover. I've listened to that book probably 3 times, and in my car, because I downloaded Audible because James Van Pruin had made mention, and I listened to Rich Dad, Poor Dad. I mean, there's a couple money books that I'm listening to. Haven't really started listening to the business books yet, which I probably should, because, well, being an entrepreneur and having no formal training or education in business, I should get into that. What I do is surround myself with entrepreneurs. I surround myself with successful business people that give me advice, and some of it for free and some of it not. But yeah, the books that I would read, Dave Ramsey, anything Dave Ramsey, if you're trying to get from where you're struggling in debt, to get out of it, I would tell that to anybody. To anybody. Absolutely. Only because I think that's where a lot of our stressors come from.
It's my biggest stressor, man.
It is. It's got to be financially. When you can have that freedom, and whatever that freedom is, I guess you say defined by you. Yes. It's a great feeling. And then you can kind of do other things Well,
when you're not having that energy being focused on something that you have no control over. I mean, you have somewhat control, obviously, your effort and you're moving forward. But what you don't have control over is the end result of it. It's either going to come or it's not. Right. And if you have that energy back in you where you're not having to worry about that, there's so much more you can do. There's so much more you can affect. And that's where I'm at with it is I don't want to stress about money because I want to help as many people as possible, but I feel like when I'm having to worry about myself, it's taking away from helping others, and then you hit this weird feedback loop where you start you spiraling down a little bit and feeling sorry for yourself.
That's some of the benefit of retiring vice ETSing, right? And I said, I mean, I'm not getting paid millions of dollars because I retired. You know, I mean, it's not something that I can survive off of. I mean, if it was only me, well, I'm a father. I'm a father of 3. I have a 4th one on the way. I'm married.
Congratulations.
My mother-in-law, my mother live with us. I mean, we're a big family, and we love it. So my retirement alone is not going to do it for me, right? So I have to go out and get a job and do all this stuff. But I'll tell you something, and I believe this to be 100% true, although it has not happened yet, right? I believe that if you do something you love, it doesn't mean you're going to get paid for it, right? But if you do something you love and you do it very well, and you seek to help,
yes,
people are going to help. You get when you give, and that's the one thing I will tell you, that if that was my motto,
I double down on that.
That would be it.
Yes.
If the more you give, the more you get. Now, don't give everything, otherwise you'll be walking around naked in Tampa. You probably not get.
It's a balance.
It's a balance. It is.
And that's what I truly am finding is everything in life is a balance. Mm-hmm. I was meditating last night, and I was listening to this Indian guru, and he was talking about the story of Buddha and how at one point the Buddha was trying so hard to follow this one path of meditation and focus that he wasn't eating, and he couldn't stand on his own anymore, and he couldn't do anything. He was going to die if he didn't change, and he was still unhappy, and he realized that happiness isn't one extreme or the other. Happiness is balance in life. It's giving and taking. It's what comes around goes around, and I truly believe in that. I love to give. Yeah. I never realized I love because I was self-centered and selfish for so long,
right?
Like most people are. I mean, it's not a plug against me, but it was who I was.
Right.
And then I realized that the more I give, the more I receive, and just more than just actual tangible things, but in happiness and in fulfillment, and that is what motivates me in my life anymore. Is just being able to connect with people and truly try to have a strong conversation that may open minds and change lives. It's amazing.
It is.
And going on to one of my favorite segments of the show that I always do is sage advice. So if you could give some sage advice to a military person in, to a veteran who's out, to a kid on the streets, to a kid in college, to an adult who's in a point in their life where they know they're not happy anymore and they know they want to pivot but they can't leap, what's some advice you'd give them?
So one of my sayings, and I don't want to say I quote, I may have made the quote or not, I don't care. I read some books and I looked it up, right? I don't know. But So dreams only happen quickly when you're asleep. There's a scientific study that says it's 8 to 12 seconds is a normal dream, whatever, something like that, right? But dreams happen all the time for people. The problem is we're not patient. We want to change direction, we want to do that stuff. But I would tell you, I don't believe there's a change in direction. Why does a dream have to be stationary? So people say, I always dreamt to be this thing. But people don't realize that there are multiple avenues to get there. Yes. There's multiple vehicles to drive and or to take, whether you're taking a helicopter, a plane, a train, a bike, whatever the case may be. That dream can go parallel with you, and no matter which direction you turn. So even though you've gone this way, doesn't mean that your dream stayed over here. Why couldn't it have followed with you? And this step that you're taking, although maybe way off from what your dream was, well, maybe it's not so far off after all because it's needed. Yes. It's a trial. And as you're going through the trials, it's building confidence. It's building knowledge. And as long as you're open to listen and learn, you're moving forward. And you had made a comment, and you said the only failure is not trying. But I will contradict that by saying the only failure is when you stop. Because you'd have to believe that success is, I mean, you'd have to believe this, what I say it is that Nightingale had said, success is the progressive realization of a worthwhile goal, right? Which means it's progressive, which means it's continuing to go of something that you, not me, that you find worthwhile.
Yes.
So if you find something worthwhile and you're making an effort to get to it, right? You're not failing. You're learning. Why, when you walk and you fall, you stop and say you failed walking, never do it again? Or you fall off a bike, you say, stop, kid. No, you get back on the bike and you get back on your feet because you're learning how to do it. Why, as an adult, do you have to all of a sudden be an expert at everything? And if you mess it up because you're not a good businessman, you've failed at it. Yep. No, you learned. So the only time in which you fail is when you stop trying to reach success. And so it's not about just stopping or not starting. Not starting is a big hindrance on not succeeding or failing. But once you've visualized something and you see it, and you take that first step to achieve it, failure is only when you say, I'm no longer going to make the effort to get what I want to have.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? So my advice is, look, don't have a stationary dream. Think about it logically of what it is that you want to pursue, and then pursue it. And don't stop. No matter what happens, I know life happens, man. Responsibilities happen. Right. We have families, we have kids, we have deaths, we have jobs, we have lives that we have to live. But your dream is simply a dream, but make it real by trying to achieve it. I'm going to say one last thing in this regard. I had a family member of mine said that he wanted to be a singer. That was his dream, to be a singer. And I said, okay, well, you want to fulfill your dream? He said, of course, more than anything in the world. I said, okay, join a choir. He said, wow. What? I said, listen, you have a dream of singing, so go join a choir. It's free. Churches have them. Go sit in a choir and sing. And you could probably change the whole church's perspective on life with your beautiful voice. But that's not your dream. You're talking about what you think is your dream, which is singing. But really, you're looking for fame, fortune, all this other stuff that isn't. There's other vehicles. Go be an actor. Go do something other than singing, because right now you're struggling with being a singer. You want to be famous, so don't look at and focus on the singing. So I say that to say this: he is singing, and he's doing a great job, and I hope the best for him. And I want him to be rich and famous and all those things, because I think that will answer all of his prayers. It won't, but good on him, right? But I want him to get to where he wants to be. But the fact of the matter is, find your tangible dream. Find out what your passion really is. And if you want to be a singer, go join a choir. It's simple. Your dream is completed, right? No, there's other things. You got to look at side of everything. I've always wanted to be a doctor, so go to school. You're only limited by your desire not to proceed, right? So that would be my sage advice is, look, attack what you want, visualize it, and get to where you want to be, but do it. And don't let anybody tell you otherwise. And don't ever think that I was going this way for a moment and now I've stopped. You still go this way. Is there a map? Do we see people with a map saying, okay, here's where you started, now you're back here? No, there's no map, and more importantly, create one. But you're never going to go backwards because the map sheet ends, right? You're just going around. Yes. You'll get to where you're going. It's following you.
Perseverance, persistence.
That's it. That's the way I believe it, man.
Earlier in the interview, you talked about some organizations you wanted to kind of highlight for what they're doing for veterans and what they're doing for military people. So let's talk a little bit about them before we wrap up the show. Yeah. So there's a couple things, and this is what I would caution veterans, right? I'd caution veterans going into different organizations. I'm gonna name some that, and there's a million more. Don't get me wrong. There are a million more. You have to find them. They're not easily accessible, which is really tough sometimes. But here's a couple. Vetted. There's hiring our heroes. You have GI Jobs. 4 Block is huge. You have the Military Transition Network in San Antonio. I mean, there is so many. Now, these ones that I just mentioned, they're real quick off the top of my head, right? They don't compete against each other, which is significant in this field. I had a guest on my podcast that would not come on my podcast because it was a conflict of interest, which is fine. I'm not going to put him out there or anything like that because we were in competing interests. Yes. Now, if you listen to my show, it's called On the Other Side, Leadership After Transition, right? How can I compete with you? It's knowledge. We're trying to give the veteran community as much knowledge, because I'm not going to. The people that are going to listen to me may or may not listen to the gentleman that declined, right? 100%. I just mentioned, none of them are here in Tampa except for 4 Block. I mean, Hiring Our Heroes kind of goes everywhere. Yes. But those other organizations are in Pennsylvania, and they go out other places. Vetted is not just in Florida. They're everywhere, right? There's not competition. Everybody's trying to give the best information, and it's not all the same information to our veteran community. So there's no competition. It is truly giving. And all of them do it for free. Yes. Right? Now, I would tell you there's 2 things. One, if you have an organization that's trying to help veterans that are making you pay, there's other ones that are free, which is great. But don't get wrapped up in the entitlement phase, and that's where I think a lot of veterans do. And I got in there at one point. It happens because you say that they're not veteran friendly because they're making you pay money. But if they're not making you pay money, a lot of these organizations are actually setting up for success, because it's not free out here. Yeah. Life is not free. You have to work for yours, and you have to continue. And thank you for your service. We all did it. I mean, not we all, but the 1% of us did. But not everything is just going to be handed to you. You have to make the minimum requirements, but you have to go out there and seek, and you have to really, really want it yourself, right? Because it's not just going to come and be handed to you. But go and seek these organizations that are truly out there trying to make a difference, because they're all over the place, right? They really are. I want to help get those organizations more notoriety. That's what I'm looking for, something like you. That's what you had made mention of. Exactly what I want to do, and it's exactly what Vetting America is all about, is giving leaders like yourself a platform to reach even more people.
Yeah.
Because again, what you've said before, which is quickly becoming one of my favorite quotes, it's simple, is you don't know what you don't know.
Yeah.
And I really think that what you're doing out here is amazing. I'm behind you 100%. If there's anything I could ever do for you, please reach out. I want to see you succeed. Tell us a little bit about your podcast one more time. What's the name of it?
On the Other Side, Leadership After Transition.
And how do we find that?
Everywhere. If you go to some place that has podcasts, I'm more than likely on it. If I'm not, go to iTunes.
And then they just open up a four block down here in Tampa.
Yep.
4block.org.
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 Yep.
I want to thank you so much, Jeff, for being on the show today.
Yep.
I want to thank Anthony Kovic of the Tampa Post for allowing me to do this today. I want to thank Richard McIntyre of McIntyreFirm.com for sponsoring this event, and thank you again to the beautiful Attic Cafe in the gorgeous downtown Tampa. Another beautiful Friday, another Vetting America show in the books, and I really appreciate every single one of you for taking the time to listen. And if you have any feedback, leave some comments below. Please like and share, and let's get the word out there about these amazing organizations and individuals who are truly trying to make a difference in the world. Thank you, guys.